We are always thrilled to have a big crowd of Swanner members. My name is Mel Larson, and I'm the Executive Director here at Swanner. This exhibit was a huge team effort to put on, and so I want to start by thanking some of our sponsors. First, thanks to Julie Monahan, Equity Real Estate Luxury Group, who is the sponsor specifically of tonight's event. And thank you for making this possible. We'd also like to thank Red Rock Brewery and also Dutch Your Taste for the amazing Yes. A few of our neighboring businesses here in Kimball Junction are also been really generous in supporting this project. And so we'd like to thank Matthew Brennan, specializing in intellectual property and complex litigation. Thank you. New Park, and of course Backcountry for being our title sponsors here tonight. Endangered Landscapes was also made possible by grants from the Summit County Rock Tax, the Summit County Restaurant Tax, the Utah Division of Arts and Museums, Utah State University Extension, Susan and Dale Coulter, and Rick Rayhart and Barbara Ring. So thanks to all of you, my name is tomorrow is the centennial of the National Park Service, and so in honor of that and celebration of that, we're hosting the Endangered Landscapes exhibit here tonight. The exhibit was created by veteran landscape photographer and Native American Rick Rayhart, who of course is our speaker tonight, currently hiding in the back. Rick grew up in the western New York area, surrounded by dramatic examples of nature, including Niagara Falls, the Great Lakes, old growth forests, and of course extreme winter weather, which I think many of us can relate to. From those experiences, he gained a deep appreciation for the beauty and the spirit and the power of nature, and also an understanding of the interrelationship of the forces of nature. From his first photos made at age 12, Rick's photography has evolved from a learned technique into a form of meditative practice. As you can see in this exhibit, his work focuses on our national lands and the growing need for their continued protection. He holds the unique distinction of being a 12-time artist in residence with the National Park Service. Wow. And the photos that you see here tonight are largely the product of his having spent over 400 days living alone within our national parks here in the United States. And so with that, Rick, I'll pass it over to you.
Sure. Be your I can take a shower, by the way. Thank you, Mel. So today is really an important day. And for us, it is the eve of the centennial of the National Park Service, and I could not think of a better place to have this exhibit open, because this is a traveling exhibition that goes to different museums around the country, and it's open right here at Swanner. And now, I'm responsible for this in big part because 5 years ago, my wife and I first came to Park City and stayed at New Park next door, and she was here for work, and I brought my camera, and I was going to go out in the mountains and take pictures, and I looked out the window, and I saw Swan. And I came in, and I started talking to Nell. She told me about all the magical work they do. And she got my heart. So I donated 2 days here, the one that I was here, and did a lot of photography, gave it to Swan. And it's never left my mind. So this is a perfect way to celebrate for me. And for you. So we got some high technology here. I can do cameras, but computers, we'll all talk a little louder. Okay. Thank you, Britt. Brittany asked me if, we're talking about microphones, and thank you, by the way, for remembering. I'm terrified of microphones these days because I was doing a talk at Rocky Mountain National Park, and they have an auditorium. I wasn't prepared for that. So in an auditorium, you get professionally mic'd. I mean, this is where, you know, like the weather person, they have the thing in your ear, and it goes down inside your shirt, you're kind of like doing this. And so there were two speakers, one was the National Park Service, and the next was me, I was the presenter. And so the guy did the presentation, and walked out, and we did a little break, and it's wireless microphones. And we went into the bathroom. So ever since, I've been a little concerned. So I know this, I'm so grateful. I want to give you time to go through the exhibit. We're going to kind of do a little introduction to it, so I don't want to take a lot of your time. I'll tell you I'm going to spend about 30 minutes, just in case anybody's watching. But I will stay here till I was wanting to close with you guys, keep me out, answer questions or talk. So let's get started. There are a number of people I just want to recognize really quick who've been a major part of this. And you know most of them, I probably know everybody already, but Nell, as I mentioned. Leslie, who's done so much all the months working with me to help get this all organized and receiving 250 pounds of artwork and walls and everything. And Gail, who was like the master curator to figure out, we walk around and we see where the pictures are. She had a big part to say in that. Olivia is from Salt Lake at the university, and Olivia did all the graphic design. So, I mean, when we came in at 10 to 10 this morning, and my wife and I are walking in the door, I could not come in for 10 minutes. I just stood there and looked at that big banner outside, and wow, look at that picture. And Olivia actually created the fonts in that. So all the letters in there are representative of, I can tell you, old historic national park posters, which you'll see in a display out there. So thank you, Olivia. And Brittany, of course, who's normally up there on the table, running around and doing all the technical stuff. So if anything goes wrong tonight, it's because of her, by the way. And I also have everybody from Bad Country, or whoever you are, thank you for helping to make this possible.
They're awesome.
Awesome. Outdoor beer. Let's get started. I did not have the honor of meeting Ted. I wish I had. But Nell introduced me to him when I first met him. And it took my heart. Because, I mean, here's a person who we have the same values. He believed in the land, he believed in conservation, he believed in preservation. He respected the Native Americans a lot. And I mean, this is in big part because of him and his contribution to this community and to his legacy. This is possible. Well, the same thing is true with the national parks. This is also a national legacy, something, a gift for all of us. And there were no national parks. In fact, for 50 years, the United States was the only country in the world to have such a thing as a national park. So President Theodore Roosevelt, I mean, he was like courageous because he actually took it upon himself to set aside land to protect this country so all of us could enjoy it. And then President Woodrow Wilson, who tomorrow, 100 years ago, signed into law the act that established the National Park Service, which makes all of this possible. So it's all about legacy and blank screens. Oh, okay. So a lot of people, I actually was talking with, I've met a bunch of people here, and one of the first things people said, well, how long have you been doing photography? How'd you get started in it? So let me just give you a quick 30-second introduction. It all began with Pepsodent toothpaste. Starting when I was 8 years old, I lived just down the street from the library. And so every day after school, I would go to the library. They were like kind of like my daycare place. And they would bring me different books to go through to see if I was interested in something. And finally, one day, somebody brought me a book of Ansel Adams. When I was 8 years old, I was fascinated with this work. I was just like, I want to do this someday. So I talked about it so much, I'm guessing in my family, that my cousin, for Christmas, gave me my very first camera. This is me, by the way. Isn't it cute? He gave me my first camera, which is actually right here. My 15-cent how which you would go out, I felt like ants land. I can tell you, I'm out there, and you would do, in the old days, you would take your film to a drugstore and wait a week, and it would come back and get your print. Well, with this, you get a print that's smaller than a postage stamp. I'm like, oh, cool, look at this. So that's how I got started. But I just started at 8 years old, but I really didn't get into it until I was 12. This was my first Brownie camera. Anybody remember? I was out there. And so I started taking pictures. Well, a few years ago, I started going through, because I had a lot of pictures from when I was young. And I started going through them to organize them. I do these talks around the country. So I wanted to show people some of the pictures I originally took. And so this is one of the first pictures I took with my Brownie camera, age 12. Then I got sophisticated, and with my 12 Polaroid camera. And I found one of the pictures I took with a Polaroid camera. And it was at this point that I started to get an idea there might be a thread here in my... This is my first... Remember the old slides? This is my first slide picture. Isn't he cute? This is my first I'm getting better. Or he was getting bored. This is my next, that's when I actually got the official telephoto lens. And that's my first work. That's not really mine. It's all But I've been doing this for a very, very long time. I'm self-taught, for those of you who want to know. I did not have a class in it, but I spent a lifetime learning and loving not so much photography, but the land, and how to capture the land in a way that other people can appreciate. I do create in my work art that I try to have represent the spirit of the land, because it's not just about a pretty picture. To me, it is about spirit and energy. In Native American culture, we believe there's a spirit in everything, and I know Tabitha did this. Whether it is a person, a tree, a rock, a flower, they all have spirit. And so part of my work is actually first going to the land, being very quiet, and I ask permission of the land to take a photograph, whether it's a tree or a forest, it doesn't matter. And sometimes you hear the word no. I mean, it doesn't feel right. But other times it does. And when you start to do this, you'll be amazed how everything seems to look different to you. Maybe it's actually, it looks different. The flower glows bigger, the horse kind of stands a little taller, but it's how I live my life and how I practice photography. I have photographed now over 100 national lands. So national lands, by the way, include national parks, monuments, forests, BLM land, which was here for BLM. As Nell said, I have a 12-time National Park Service Artist in Residence. I'm actually this year going to be an Artist in Residence at a Bureau of Land Management in Florida. BLM has another place too, so I'm 13, I guess. And in the last 6 years, I spent over 400 days living alone in the national parks. For those of you that don't know, I do want to recognize, by the way, she's back there, my wife, who is in a big part, my biggest supporter, Barbara. She makes a lot of it possible. And I mention her now because I can't bring her along, unfortunately, in the national park. So I'm typically living in a park 4 to 6 weeks at a time, one park. And I'm alone in the park. I'm not living in the city and driving in. I'm alone living in the park. And she can't just come visit. When I was there at Badlands, I was there 6 weeks, and I had to write to the superintendent of the National Park Service in Washington, D.C. to get permission for her to come for 2 days. And we were talking before we got started. Some prisoners get conjugal visits. Anyway, last year I was honored to receive the presidential 1,000 Points of Light Award for the work I've done with the national parks. So that's quite wonderful. And a lot of my work is in U.S. embassies and Smithsonian. You'll see one of those in Yay. What informs my photography? Number one, it's not about photography, it's about and loving it. And all of you being here, being supporters of this organization, I believe we all share in common. It's a love of the land and protecting it. respecting nature, the same kind of thing. A lot of what I do is understanding light. So over time, and I think this is true for a lot of outdoor people. As you get out more and more, you start to know, I think that the clouds move over a little bit, and you could get this magnificent sunset, or you get a sense of it. And so after all these years, a long time doing it, you get a sense of it. Always ask for permission before I make a photograph, and I practice a lot of being quiet. I see a lot of people out there when I take pictures, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they're all plugged in, and they're wrapping around, and that's okay. But for me, I don't feel the land, I don't sense it, unless I can just be quiet and be warm. So, I had never been to a national park till I was like 37 years old. I mean, seriously, I lived in Niagara Falls. I mean, it was right down the street from me. I mean, I'm used to like, oh yeah, Niagara Falls, yeah. It was nothing. And I was heard as a kid, you know, the most beautiful places in the country of the world are like somewhere else. Switzerland, Italy, you gotta go to the Bahamas. And so when we got married and stuff, I started going to England, I always think the same way, let's go to Switzerland. And finally one year she said to me, why don't we take a vacation in the United States? I'm like, here. Let's do it. National Park. So we went to Grand Canyon. And that literally changed my life in terms of photography and what I wanted to photograph. So the first national park in the United States was established in Yellowstone. And so, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I decided to go to Yellowstone independent photo shoot and spend 2 weeks there photographing the land. This is so exciting. So I got all my camera gear, and I get in the car, and I fly out to West Yellowstone. I had to stay overnight in a little motel. In the morning I get up, and I go through the entranceway. Anybody been to Yellowstone? Oh yeah. So we all know, you go through the entrance, and I'm like so excited. You come around this bend about a half a mile from the entrance, and this is what I saw.
What did I get into?
So pretty soon the Rangers, I mean, by the way, this is a two-way road. And if somebody pointed this out last night, I showed this picture.
Yeah.
There are people going this way, then they're coming this way. And what was, but it's people been in Yellowstone, why do you think this was? Bears! Somebody thought they saw a bear a mile up on a mountain, and they stopped the car in the road, and nobody got up. So anyway, I did think when I was stuck in traffic, and I'm going out to West Yellowstone, or Yellowstone Lake, so I just waited, and finally I got there, and I was there for the night, in a little cabin, I got up the next morning, and things changed. So, this was my first picture from Yellowstone. And it's like, okay, I'm home. This was that night. This is Yellowstone Lake. It's a spectacular place, but it's all about waiting. I mean, I waited, this was 28 degrees this night, and I was the only person on this lake, and I knew that the moon would come up about 9 o'clock. And so I drove there, and I'm the only person, I'm shaking. I'm literally shaking at the edge of the lake, waiting for the moon to come up. I got my little, there's a calculator, by the way, for photographers, outdoor people. When's the moon going to come up? And actually it'll tell you where it's going to come up, which is really cool. So I'm standing there waiting, and this guy drives up in a big Cadillac. And in the parking lot, boom, closes the door, gets out, and he walks up. This is a 4-mile round lake. Where does he go? Right next to me. Doesn't say a word, got a big cigar in his mouth, just puts his camera down, and hits a button and walks away. I'm like, what's he doing? Pretty soon it's like, click, click. His camera's taking pictures and he's in his car with it running. But the best part of this is yet to come. So, after about 25 minutes, he gets out of his car, boom, slams the door. And he says, I won't use all the words, but he says, the blank moon's not coming up tonight, I guess. Picks up his camera, goes away, gets in the car, drives away. Not even 2 minutes later. Yes. So it's all about patience. This, so right below Yellowstone is Grand Teton. If you ever have a choice, do both. Go around, don't miss Grand Teton. It's all in beauty of Yellowstone, but not as much traffic. It's a spectacular place, and this is actually the piece that's now in the Smithsonian. It's called News on Fire.
Wow.
This is also another one. There's this wonderful place in Grand Teton where everybody goes to photograph. It's well known. It's called Oxbow Bend. Okay? And so I knew that it's a popular place with everybody, photographers. So I got up at 4 in the morning. I'm going to get a great picture of it. This is not Oxbow Bend. Oxbow Bend's over here. So 4:30, I arrived. I mean, there's hundreds of photographers there before me. Now, what am I going to do? So I started walking down the road, and I'm down about a quarter of a mile, and I started to see the light coming out, just hitting the top of these trees. So I just stood there and pretty soon, this lasted about 20 seconds and it was gone. Well worth the walk. So, I work in the national parks. I've done a lot of things independently on my own, as photo shoots, but I do a lot also with Park Service. And so, a lot of people ask me about what's it like being an artist in residence. I would say it's a great honor to be selected because you have to, I mean, sometimes we'll get 500 applications to pick one artist. And so it's a big commitment on the part of the park too, because our Park Service is really financially strapped. They really are trying to make a lot go do with what they've got. And so these are some of the little cabins I've been in. Some of them are very luxurious. Rocky Mountain. This is Zion, for those of you. This is right at the base of the Narrows, which is, I was there last year, spectacular place. This is Hubble Trading Post. It's in New Mexico. It's in Arizona, I'm sorry. And it was the first Native American trading post in the country. And so that was where I lived. I was so honored. It's a 10 by 10. You know, it's a little candy thing, but it's really cool. Great history here. Mesa Verde National Park and Petrified Forest, just to give you an idea. Okay, some of my companions along the way. Yes, I'm out in the wild by myself. No, I don't always have bear spray. I don't wear bear bells. You know, we call them lunch bells. But this was where I was staying. This is Whiskey Town. It's in California, Shasta Trinity National Forest. And this was actually a very big Christian place. This is all mine. And I drove in the driveway one day, and he was right there waiting for me. And the year before this, the artist in residence who was there loved peanut butter. This is no joke. And left the window open with a jar of peanut butter in the kitchen. Guess what?
Yeah.
They came in, the bear ripped the whole place apart, so they had just been redone. This is the bison that chased me across Black Mountain. Getting trapped with some elk, getting stuck on top of a mountain with a snake. So we all got to do selfies these days. So I brought you a few of mine from along the way. And this is all national parks in the United States. Oh well, what the heck? How about a few more? There we go. And a few more. So some of what it takes to do what I do, not just as an artist in residence, but as a landscape photographer. I added this for all of you here in Utah. This is Angel's Landing. You been up? How many been up there? How many had the courage to keep going? It takes your breath away, doesn't it? You guys are amazing. So to give a sense of just, if you just show this, you don't really get a sense of how big it is. But you see this, it's like, wow. I was in Death Valley. We're at the base of that, you know, it's the lowest point in the United States. And then one day it was 115 degrees. The very next day, I'm on top of a mountain, it was 30 degrees where there was snow. This is all the same place. I do a lot. I did a Katy National Park. I did photo shoots from airplanes. Yeah, those are my feet dangling over outside. Yeah. Barbara hasn't seen this one, by the way. I try not to show her all my stuff. Kayaks, Acadia. This is, you guys would appreciate this, especially being out here, because Nell gave me some of her boots. When I was here, I got stuck in the river in the Katy National Park. They had to come help pull me out. Okay, so some people ask me about my gear. What do I typically take with me? About 40 to 60 pounds of candy when I go on a photo shoot. And I use it because I do a lot of different photography, and for those of you who walked around a little bit, they start to get a sense of this stuff. So for most people, you will know about digital cameras. I shoot, somebody asked me which, I shoot with Canon. It doesn't matter though, I used to shoot with Nikon. They all do beautiful images. It's just what I feel most comfortable with. And a lot of different cameras, some that can go underwater, and some I can put up on a little kite and things like that. But I also grew up with film photography. And so I still have a passion for it. It has amazing quality to it. It's very hard to get film for it, things like that. but I shoot with I know it's called Lumira, but I also have, and you will see this in the show in the far back, I don't have the camera here, but I shoot with the 1907, it's called the Seneca camera. If I had it here, you know instantly. It's a big wooden camera with a bellows that's about this long. You wear a black drape over your head, and people are always walking by like, what is going on? But I have a backup camera, which you'll actually see on display tonight back there. And I'd like to encourage you when you go back, look through the back and you'll see what I see as a photographer. It's not like what you see with a camera today. When you're shooting a black and white film camera, you're looking at things upside down and reversed. So we actually have it displayed so you can kind of look through it and see what I see. So anyway, this is why it ends up being 60 pounds a year if I take all of these things with me. But some things feel appropriate for a historic camera to me, because some things are timeless in this country. You know, the land, some of the land is like it looked 150, 200 years ago. Some of the historic structures need black and white, they just call that. So this is why it takes so much here with me. So some of the demands and the rewards, the big thing about my work is about patience and waiting. This Rocky Mountain National Park, Moraine Park, for those of you who know where the rut season is going on, you know. Oh, yeah. And I was living in a cabin right up here on the top of Moraine Park. And every day I would look at this view, because this is just an amazing place. And one day, 3 years ago, they closed the park because the weather was so bad they were afraid people were going to drive off the road. I mean, the weather was just pouring. And so I was there by myself in the park. And this is how photographers think. Well, it's about 3:30. You know, in a couple hours the sun's going to set. I've been here all day. If the rain would stop, if the clouds would open a little bit before the sun sets, maybe I could get a good shot. So I went out and I stood in the park, the land, and I had a little baggie over my camera, nothing on me, and I looked like a drowned rat. But finally, this is about 20 minutes before sunset. It all stopped. There was a little opening in the clouds. This, I thought it might light up a little bit of the land. But this, like, spotlight just shot down for 20 seconds before it was gone. You see this sometimes when you're out in the land, you know? I just got a little lucky to capture it on film. Place you know and love. Bryce Canyon, I was there this year. And this is a thing a lot of people photograph. This is an area a lot of people photograph, but I know, because I know the geology here, that if the light is just right, the rocks will almost look translucent. And so 5 days in a row, I went to this very same place. I never took a picture of this, because I just waited for the right light, and the last day, it happened. And that's what makes this a little bit unusual. This is, anybody been to White Sands, New Mexico? It's incredible, isn't it? It's just sand. But it's amazing sand, and it goes on forever. So it is also a place where they drop bombs. The Air Force Base is right next door, so you don't want to just wander around. And they actually close the place at night, and you have to wait until 8 o'clock in the morning at the little gate to go. And so I talked to the park, and I got permission to come in early, and I got in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're the only person in there, and I hiked and hiked and hiked, and I got to the spot, and I hoped that the moon would be, nice, but I had no idea it would be lunar or anything like this way, so that's 4:30 in the morning. Same morning, a little bit later, the sun came up. This is the same place, just turned around the opposite direction. So this is New Mexico, about 2 hours south of Albuquerque. Another thing I have to pay attention to is the weather. Again, I chose this for Utah. This is the Narrows, and this is at the top of the Narrows. Well, I was living down at the bottom, and weather here is kind of different, isn't it? So every day I was there, it was 60 degrees. And it was kind of unusual. Everybody's telling me it's really unusual. It was warm. And one day I got up at 3 in the morning, because the photographers, I'm usually out the door at 4:30, something like that. I look out the window and it's snowing. I'm like, yes! Because for me as a photographer, when weather changes so dramatically, it usually means that the light is going to be pretty different as well. So I climbed up. For those of you who know the Narrows, easy. In the dark, I climbed up the mountain. This is pretty close to the tops up here. And I waited for sunrise, and sure enough, this was fog rising and the sun came down. It was just like the spirit. It's just kind of, it was so cool. This is the first homestead in the United States. You know, they gave people 160 acres if they would come out and farm lots. Because I mean, this was rugged landscape. This is over at Homestead National Monument. It's in Nebraska. And this is the very first homestead that existed. And I tried to figure out what would be an image that would convey the timelessness of it. And so all of a sudden there was a lightning storm. I'm running down the street with a metal tripod, trying to get the people are going, you listen, there's lightning. I'm like, yes! And I waited here, sure enough, I just got there just the right moment. By the way, there were 9 children and 2 parents who lived in this 10 by 10 house. So for those of you that know the history of it, this is Mount Carmel, this is Utah. This is at the very western end of, eastern end of Zion. And this was just an amazing moment. I was driving to photograph a weather vane, which you see somewhere in the exhibit here. And on the way, it was 28 degrees that day, and the wind was blowing, so the rain told me was 14 degrees wind chill. And I was driving, and I saw, I love this cabin, but I just saw a little vent. And I thought, maybe I could turn into something really nice. So I stayed there for about 15 minutes, and my hand started trembling, and my hand got stuck to the tripod because it was so cool. And pretty soon, just poof, the sun came over the horizon, and this is fog coming off. It looks like it's on fire. It looks like a volcano. But this was just spectacular. This is Mount Carmel. This is your state. So thank you. Going beyond the easy way, Mesa Verde people. Anybody Mesa Verde people? How many people climbed the ladder? Familiar? God bless you guys. You guys are good. So Mesa Verde is the cliff dwellings where Pueblo Indians built these kind of like Howard Johnson's. I'm not trying to. Amazing 200-room structures up on a mountain to protect their families. And this is also where they had a ceremonial chamber. So every morning when the sun rose, they would come out to this area and they would do the ceremony as the sun rose. And so again, Zion National Park, it's a day park. They don't want you wandering around at night, so all the gates are locked. You can't get here until the daytime. You got to take a tour. So again, thanks to the superintendent, I was able to get permission to go in there. And what it involved though was you climb down like 100 steps, and then you climb up a wooden ladder. There's 40 rungs on it, and I'm doing this in total dark, carrying 40 pounds of camera. And I made it, and this was sunrise at Mesa Verde. This is also sunrise at Mesa Verde. It's just a little bit later the same day, but again, Barbara didn't know about this one. This involved me hanging over the edge of a cliff, and this picture could be about a 40-foot long panorama if you wanted it to. It's made from 110 individual images. It's called stitching. So you take a lot of little pictures, and then you put them all together, and the quality will never deteriorate. It could be 100 feet long. It's amazing, but it takes a lot of time. Badlands National Park. If you haven't been there, you've got to go. It's kind of all by itself, but I will tell you it's a spectacular place. It's on the edge of, Badlands is really 2 parks in one. It is part of the Navajo Nation, and it is the national parks, and they've gotten together, and so they share the same land. And this, these are teepees. This is midnight, and I came out and I saw this. I thought, what would really be one image that would, for me, convey the sense of Badlands National Park? This was historically Native American land, and I thought it was teepees wood. So this is lit only by the light. For those of you that know, if you take a picture a long time, you'll see what's called star trails. A lot of people think if you stand there, the Earth isn't moving, by the way, around the stars. You know, I mean, they think the stars are moving. But if you actually watch the star, you never notice that it's moving. But over time, the stars move in a circular pattern. And so this picture took like 100 minutes. And by photographing this is one star, you start to get a sense of the circle. In Native American culture, the circle is the most important symbol of all. It's like the circle of life, that kind of feeling. So this was, again, just be patient. By the way, it was also colorful. This is Badlands National Park. I'll just show you a couple more. Smoky Mountain National Park. I'm sure there's places in Utah that look just like this. And this is Black Canyon, which is in Colorado. It's a hard place to get to, but it's a spectacular place as well. And you don't have to worry about too many people. Right now, in a lot of parks, we talk about them loving the parks to death because Smoky Mountain National Park, one day I was there, they had 1.1 million visitors in one day. I mean, you know, if you're visiting the park, you want to see the park. It's kind of hard. And they're trying to figure out ways to manage it, but Black Canyon, the guys, and there won't be too many people. That place we all know about. But this is also about the colorful. This is where the photographic squander, because there's so much natural beauty here. And also photographing the unusual. For BLM people, real land management, I gotta tell you, they manage some spectacular land in this country that most people don't know about. And there's one which is in the Four Corners regions of New Mexico. It's called Biscay Wilderness. I'll write it down for anybody who wants to go there. I've heard about that place. And so it used to be a Navajo reservation, and the Navajo moved off because they couldn't grow enough crops to support the people. But this is where they would also do ceremonies. So I went there, and the BLM people who I spoke to, I said, this is where I want to go. And they said, are you sure? I said, well, yeah, I've heard about it. And they said, well, just be aware. There's not even 1,000 people a year who go there, number one. Number two, you're the only person there most likely. Number three, there's nobody going to come and check on you. There's no rangers, there's no police, there's no people who live by there. You sure you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I have signed a waiver. So I got out there, and my wife knows this story, but it's the first time in my life I ever felt actually scared. I hiked for about 4 or 5 miles, and I'm sitting there, and I sit down, and you know, when you hear something over and over, you start to think about it. I'm sitting there thinking, I don't see anything in the photograph, and what if I sprain my ankle? I mean, it goes through your mind. And all of a sudden, I turned around, and the sun just moved this one way, and I looked at this rock, and I started to see these amazing creatures. By the way, the camel, which was a very close representation, the camel actually originated on this continent. Before all the continents shifted, the camel went from here over to Asia. Biscay Wilderness, same kind of thing. Native Americans actually painted some of these, I call this Great Spirit, but they painted some of these rock formations. Like there's paint up here, they paint little nose and things on here, and they actually did their ceremonies close to this area. And my work is also always about taking time to look deeply. This was petrified forest, and one day I was in this area called Blue Mesa, which some of you might have been to, and I was there before sunrise, and I'm trying to figure out what do I want to photograph, and I saw something called an owl. And I thought, I'll just stay here for a while. Anybody see it yet? And then the sun came up a little more. And it's like, oh my goodness! And in case you can't see it, let's turn it the other way. Go backwards? Yeah. Look at that. So it's about patience and just looking closely at nature. Through the dangers, I think many of you know, but let me talk about this because all of our national lands are also in danger. The way we're loving them to death, not intentionally, but some of the things, climate change, I mean, there's some things we can't control, there's some things that just are. But the problem with climate change is that not only is the warm temperatures uncomfortable, but it's causing the glaciers to melt. Any Glacier National Park people, if you haven't been there, I encourage you to go really soon. It's a sad story. 150 years ago, this is not glacier, but 150 years ago, there were 120 named glaciers at Glacier National Park. Today there are 22. They estimate that by 2020 there will be none. So for all of us in a way, if you've seen it, it's a sad story. I will tell you, if I have to look at it a different way, for our children's children, they'll never know something different. It's kind of like going to Dinosaur National Monument. I mean, it wasn't like you and I saw dinosaurs there one day. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but in a way, it will still be a national park, it will still be protected, it will still be beautiful, but there won't be glaciers that made it famous. Decreasing water demands, I'm sure this is true in all of Utah too, this is true across all the western United States. Melting glaciers, the glaciers were providing water during the summertime. They fed the water table was up. Well, now because of growing demand to population, the water table is decreasing.
Joshua trees, many of the pinyon trees, Mesa Verde, they have died because of no water in the drought, because of the water and the decreasing demands for water. So just something to be more thoughtful of when watering the lawn. Insects, I don't know how bad it is here in Utah, but I can tell you in so many national parks, the gypsy moth, the Albred, woolly, they're eating the trees. And I mean 70% of the evergreens in Rocky Mountain National Park are gone because of these bugs. And what happened is, it's not unusual. These are, by the way, when I got to Rocky Mountain National Park, I was like in awe, because I grew up in the eastern United States, so in fall, the trees change color. They're beautiful. They're red leaves and yellow leaves, and I'm having the best time for a whole week photographing the trees. And I was just around the bend from this after I took this picture, and this woman and man came around, and we started talking, and they're from Estes Park, which is right there where the park is, and the woman goes, "I'm so sorry you got to see the park like this right now." And I'm like, "Why?" She goes, "Because of the dead trees." And I said, "Where?" She goes, "Right there." So these are all dead trees. These are because of this, think of it like a beetle. And normally the beetles live on the trees, and that's fine. They would live there until the winter, and then they would die off, or some would go into hibernation. But they're not dying off because the land isn't cold enough anymore. So they're eating off the trees year round, and that's creating the problem. Also, a lot of the western up, this is buffalo grass, and it is ravaged in places like Saguaro National Park. And it's not a problem, it's not killing anything, but the problem is there's never been a danger of fire there. But this is highly combustible. So lightning strike or something like that could devastate the whole park and kill all the trees. I bet all you've seen some of this stuff. One of the problems with national parks are visitors. I mean, I'd love to think everybody was thoughtful, but they're not. You know, you see the Coke can and the social trails. This is the way to go, but we'll take the shortcut. And emissions from cars. So just to suggest you can be more mindful and encourage others. I'm sorry to do this, but this is so important. These are two very different stories. In Utah, unfortunately, had to suffer it. Vandalism is a big thing, and I see far more of it than you will ever see, because I'm getting places of the park where people normally aren't allowed. And it's sad what people are doing. And this was Goblin Valley, and this was, I don't want to name names, but this was someone who was a scout leader who took his troop out, and this is a 100-million-year-old rock formation, and he knocked it over. This was a woman who went around to national parks for 3 years before they caught her, and she had this thing called Creepy Things. This was her artwork, and she would photograph it and sell these images. And these were old rock formations, and just petroglyphs. She put on petroglyphs and pictographs. They finally caught her. The problem I have is, okay, first, number one, people doing this, but number two, there is not a huge punishment for this. So this person here was fined $900. That's it. It's gone forever. This woman, 200 hours of community service. I mean, we have to find a way to kind of make things a little bit better. My favorite place, though, is Petrified Forest, where people steal 1 million pounds of petrified wood a month. 1 million. Now, how do they know that? Because that's how much is returned. UPS in the mail. People feel guilty. And so when I was there working in the park, they showed me some UPS packages coming in, and people had these written notes. And if you can't read this, I'll read one to you. "Dear manager, I'm sorry I took this. I'm only 5 years old and made a bad mistake. Here are beautiful, they are beautiful, but I can't enjoy them. They weigh like a ton of bricks on my conscience. Sorry." The problem for the Park Service is also when they return, because they are a believer in the history of a place. So this rock came from here. This rock came from here. If someone takes it or takes a point, an arrowhead, and then they return it, it can't go to its proper place because nobody knows where that was. And so in Petrified Forest, they have this thing called the conscience pile. Conscience pile, which is a huge pile of rocks that they can't put back. Hey, enough of my platform. Okay, so things not to miss in this exhibition. Let's move on. There are 6 more images from across America. Yep, Thank you, everybody. But let me tell you real quick, when you're walking around, this is artwork created 3 different ways. So actually, everybody has arranged this room in a very wonderful way. There's traditional photography, so many of you will be familiar with this. It's done with film cameras or digital. There is historic, there's pictures done with black and white. I use a traditional gelatin silver process, which is like 100 years old, to develop the prints. And then in the far back of the exhibit area, you're going to see a number of pictures that are images painted by hand. So I take a photograph, print it in a very special way where the ink doesn't dry. And then I take it and apply it to some handmade paper, upside down, and by pressing with my fingers, I can control how it looks. So these are all one-of-a-kind photographs, not to miss. We have a whole bunch of goodies from the National Park Service. Actually, these are mine. My Park Ranger hat. National Park Service, the first, this is 100 years old. There's the National Geographic in the back over here, which is 100 years old, and it was published 4 months before Congress was to vote on the National Park Service. The National Geographic was felt it was so important to the National Park Service, they designated this entire issue to encourage Congress to vote for it, and they did. So that's in the back, along the back wall here when you come in. There are posters. There was a WPA program right after the war where they hired artists to create posters that encourage people to come visit the parks. There's a huge collection of, I've been collecting these for years. Is that my bell? There's a huge collection of posters. Some of them date back as early as 1905, where people were sending postcards. I've been to Badlands, it's amazing, gotta get home, can't wait to get home, things like that. So you can take a look at those. There's also in the far back, there is a huge map of the United States where you can take a pen, a map pen, put it in where you've been. I encourage you to do that. So closing, tour of the exhibit. There will be a video showing here. One of the things I do is create music videos in the national park, so you'll see some of the music videos playing here. Check out the cameras and visit the ranger station over here where you can make little notes about thoughts you had on your favorite national park. And I'm done because I'm over. I'm sorry.